All right, welcome back to another edition of 2 Hours No Traffic, your Philadelphia and New York sports podcast. But we're not talking New York this week. Spen's not here. New York doesn't matter. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl, and I got Brenden Deeg back. Welcome back to the show for one. Last we talked, we were hoping we were going to be here, but it was far from a sure thing. So just how's it feel? I know I'm stoked, but what's your feeling?
Yeah, man, this season's been awesome. It's been a ton of fun. As an Eagles fan and my first year covering the league full time, it's been really cool to see the team that I root for and the team that kind of got me in the position I am today, be in the Super Bowl, and they deserve it. There was of course a lot of talk from 49ers fans about how they could have beaten the Eagles, NFC
Yeah.
Championship and whatnot, which is all garbage. But they were the best team in the NFC the entire year, in my opinion. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC as well. So I think you guys are the two best teams in the NFL meeting in the finals, and I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, this is going to be it will be a fun 3 hours, I guess. And it's been a long build up, so it's been a long week so far.
Dude, it's gonna be a stressful 3 hours. Like I'm so happy that we're here. Don't get me wrong. This might be the least fun I have at a Super Bowl party or gathering, simply because I'm not there just pounding beers, eating sandwiches, whatever. Like I'm gonna be an emotional wreck until we're up at least two
Well,
scores.
you're braver than I am. I'm watching it by myself. I can't be at a Super Bowl party. I
I'm
can't be
going
near
into Philly.
people. Yeah, I'm from Toronto.
Yeah,
I wish I was in Philly, but yeah, I can't be around people for the Super Bowl.
I'm with you. Usually for watching the game, like I don't watch the games during the season with anybody because I like to watch it like for the football itself.
Yeah.
But I was there in 2017 when they won, and just the pandemonium that followed. I'll know what I'm missing, and I wouldn't sleep that night. I'd be like, oh, someone's climbing a pole without me, or someone's throwing beers out the window, and I'm here. The FOMO just got to be too much.
Oh,
So
for
it's going to
sure.
be an ordeal.
If I was in Philly, you'd be around all Eagles fans. It's a little different when you're from Toronto and you go to a party and you maybe have one other Eagles fan with you. It's not you want to
Yeah.
just be contained with I guess your people, if that makes sense.
No, I completely get it. So
Mhm.
I mean, I was going to ask. Now that you're covering the league full time, I mean, nobody hit you up to head out west or anything, or to go
No,
cover the
so
game.
yeah, so as a news editor, we the news editors don't go to the game. They send the like our NFL insiders. So we basically I'm not working during the game, so I'm actually during the morning shift at 8 to 4,
Okay.
leading up to the Super Bowl, and then I'm gonna be on a train home from downtown Toronto, getting home as fast as possible, and then kind of get ready. So it's actually no, it's not, it's cool. I don't have to work during the game, and then I can kind of do work the 8 hours before. So it kind of sets up perfectly.
Yeah, you get your full work day in where you don't miss the important part. Because the
Exactly.
morning, I wish I had something to do in the morning to distract me from just
Yeah,
knowing what's coming. So being busy is probably a good call.
that's what I'm thinking too.
I mean, and look, and I've been talking like I'm freaking out that we're not going to win. I do think the Eagles are going to win. This team to me has very similar kind of vibes to that 2017 team, where I just feel so comfortable and confident that like this team's on a different level. They're so locked in. Jalen Hurts is about as steady of a guy as you could ask for. I mean, you saw the interview with Devontae Smith, where he's not leaving the hotel; he's just sleeping, doing the mandatory workouts and sleeping. Like there's just this feeling that they're not going to be denied. And then they feel like 2017 again. They have some of the same guys. BG's back, Fletcher's back, Kelsey's back. They'll have them ready. Is that like a false sense of security? Do you feel the same way you did in 17 too? Or
No, so I it's funny because in 2017 I felt the complete opposite way. Like the Patriots are going into 6.5 point favorites in that game. It was almost how I spoke about this in my podcast earlier this week. It's almost like house money in 2017. It was like this has been such a cool run. Nick Foles is like just destroyed the Vikings. Like any sort of I guess a close game. When you say that before the game, but even if they competed against the Patriots, it would have
yeah,
been fun. But like this year, I feel like this is the most confident I've been in an Eagles team in my entire life. This
right?
is and this is, in my opinion, the best team in the league. Just not even being an Eagles homer here. Like I watch again, first year covering the league. I watch every game every Sunday, and in my opinion, like this team just had to step above every other team in most aspects, especially the run game and just to be able to kind of balance the run and the pass game. This is the best team to do that in the NFL. They had a top 5 pass, basically a top 7 or 8 passing unit according to EPA per play, and then they had the number 1 rushing unit according to EPA per play. So they were the most efficient rushing offense, and then they had a top 10 efficient passing offense. Not many teams basically ever have been able to do that. I'd be really curious to kind of look that up. I'm sure you could probably count them on one hand. So this is, in my opinion, one of the better teams. One of the better teams that's been around, like top to bottom, from like player 1 to 53, just pound for pound, best rosters that have been in the NFL over the last 5 years. They're playing like it as well. They're healthy. All 22 starters are going to play in the Super Bowl, which I think is another under talked about aspect of this. So, yeah, like just taking the Eagles' homer hat off. I'm 100% confident in this team, and it's a different feeling. I've never felt like this before.
Right?
2017 was like, again, they had a great roster, but again, you always. Even though he destroyed the Vikings in the NFC Championship game, there's still in that thought in the back of your head, like he's still Nick Foles, right? Like, but it's
gonna happen eventually. He's gonna come back down to earth.
Yeah, something's got to give, but that never happened, and the guy was possessed by God for 2 games in the playoffs. So, just back to the original question. This is the most confident I've been in an Eagles team, and it's not even close.
Same, to the point where like I was drafting up these questions and none of them were like, I'm not worried about a lot of matchups on the Chiefs. I mean, I want to get into Travis Kelce. I want to get into CJ Gardner-Johnson because I was thinking the same thing, and I saw your tweet about that. That's got to be the matchup. Not necessarily one-on-one the whole game, but I think physicality-wise, CJ's the only one that's going to be able to make him uncomfortable. I love Slay. I love Bradbury. They're cover guys. They're a little bit more finesse. They're not going to get up in your jersey like Gardner-Johnson's going to have to with Travis Kelce. But that I'm foreshadowing for down the line. While we're still talking about the Eagles, the big question for me is who's going to be the feature back. I'm wearing the Sanders jersey. I think Miles Sanders had a phenomenal season, but Kenneth Gainwell is red hot at the moment. And it just seems like in the Super Bowl, put everything aside, I'm almost more comfortable giving him the majority of the carries.
Yeah, I think you're going to see closer, maybe like a 60, maybe 55, 30, 15 split. So Sanders will get 55% of the touches, Gainwell will get 30%, and then Boston Scott will get the rest. Something close to that. And it's Miles Sanders has probably played about 65, close to 70% of the snaps this year. So Mick Sirianni actually said today that Kenneth Gainwell has earned more playing time just from his play over the last 3 games.
Yeah.
And you've seen that. Kenneth Gainwell has double-digit carries in back-to-back games. In my opinion, he's been the best Eagles running back in the playoffs. Sanders has also looked fine, but Kenneth Gainwell just brings something I think a little more different than Sanders does, and it just has more pop right now. Kenneth Gainwell is really good in the passing game as well, and the Kansas City Chiefs have given up the 5th most yards to opposing running backs out of the backfield catching the ball. So I think that's got to be somewhat of an aspect of the offense. And it's funny, Jalen Hurts hasn't really thrown to his running backs very much this year. So I think you're probably going to see some wrinkles in there. Maybe Sirianni's going to catch him off guard with some running back screens and whatnot. But I think Sanders probably still deserves maybe the majority of the carries, but I think it should be a closer split. And I really like the way that all 3 running backs are playing. Like they've been red hot in the playoffs, but especially Kenneth Gainwell. Like he's a player that I've always liked. I love the draft pick coming in the 5th round. I was big on him during the draft process. If you even go back to his Memphis days, Tony Pollard was his backup in Memphis. Like this isn't
he was a big play machine in Memphis.
Yeah, like this isn't coming out of nowhere. Kenneth Gainwell's a very talented guy, and it's really cool to see him kind of popping off in the big stage.
And he's doing the same thing with the Eagles. I mean, I guess you're right for slow and steady. Like I don't even say slow and steady because Miles Sanders can pop one at any moment. But you can count on him to kind of shorten the downs, get you to 2nd, 3rd, and manageable. It seems like whenever you give Kenneth Gainwell the ball, albeit less than Sanders, he finds a way to get you those chunky plays, those 10, 15, 20 yards.
Walks a lot better than Miles Sanders. Like he's going forward. Like he's not going side to side.
Miles Sanders has a little bit of Shady McCoy in him, but not with the same twitchiness that McCoy had to make up for those sins. When we were talking about the run game, you mentioned a wrinkle or a trick or something different that we're going to see. The Eagles are known for trick plays in the Super Bowl. Do you think we see one, and what does one look like?
I would be surprised if they did, But it's not crazy to think like there's been trick plays called in the Super Bowl a lot. I believe the Rams called one last year, right?
Mhm.
I think they tried to throw the ball to Stafford on a play, or was it the Bengals? Someone called a trick play. Someone tried to throw the ball to the quarterback. I think it was the
I'm
Rams.
pretty sure it was Rams to
Yeah,
Stafford.
it was the Rams. So and then the Patriots also did one against the Eagles, right? In the same game, Tom Brady didn't catch his.
He didn't catch it though.
Yeah, so it's not crazy to think, but I think Sirianni might have learned his lesson in 2021. I don't know if you remember, but I actually was at the game. I went to Philly for the game. It was the 49ers game week 2 in 2021. It was the home opener for last season, and he called the Philly special to Jalen Hurts, and it did not work. The problem is because Jalen Hurts is such a threat with holding on to the ball and running. So usually there's a guy spying him. So it's hard to kind of run trick play with him as a quarterback because there's already a player accounting for him. Trick play is usually no one's accounting for the quarterback to do anything, and that's how it can kind of work. So maybe you see like a running back throwing the ball. I doubt it though, but it would be fun to see if Sirianni draws up. I could see the Chiefs calling one. Maybe not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Andy Reid's drawn up some crazy plays on some burger napkins over the last couple of weeks.
Andy can't help himself. He's got a greasy Burger King napkin somewhere with pure genius or lunacy. There's a thin line between the two.
Yeah, for sure.
We were talking about it last night on part 1 of the Super Bowl special with Russ Joy over from Crossing Broad. And we were all in agreement that if I could draw up a trick play to run during the Super Bowl, I need the football in Jordan Mailata's hands. I need it more than I need air. I know. That big dude can fly. He's got ball skills. Why we haven't done it yet is beyond me.
Something at the goal line with him would be funny.
Goal line, even have him report as eligible. He's probably got some hands, like just quick little flare route or something. Because he played rugby. He's had the ball in his hands. He's been in the open field. He's such a unique guy, and I think he's phenomenal. I think we use him great, but he's just unlike any other lineman. I don't think we've taken enough advantage of it. But
yeah, it would be fun to see.
That's probably more accurate. It would just be fun. What would be really fun to see is kind of the guy that everyone gets a pass right now because the team's playing so well. But if you had to look for somebody that, look, we need a little bit more out of you in the Super Bowl, it's A.J. Brown for me. Now, I know the games have gone differently. We're blowing teams out. There's no need to really stretch the field, which is where he comes into play with those, the right after catching the slant routes. But should we expect a big game from A.J. Brown, or do you think it's going to be another quiet one from him?
No, they need him. I'm expecting him to get a ton of targets in this game. I think the offense is going to run. The offense has ran through 3 guys. The passing offense has been Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith. I think it's going to be like times 10. I don't think Quez Watkins is going to get any touches. I think they're going to go to the guys that make the biggest plays, and A.J. Brown is at the top of that list. So the Kansas City Chiefs will have the second most touchdowns to opposing wide receivers this season, and they're starting 2 rookie cornerbacks. I don't know if you watched last week's game, the Bengals versus the Chiefs, but Justin Watson got absolutely dunked on by T. Higgins in the end zone. It was a nice throw. It was a nice ball by Joe Burrow, but T. Higgins and A.J. Brown are the same kind of guys when it comes to going up and getting the ball. And I think the Eagles are going to take some shots. You're going to see Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, he blitzes and he plays man-to-man coverage behind it on third downs. It's what he's known for. It's what he's always done. And they're going to have some one-on-one shots on the outside, and Jalen Hurts is going to take them. And I think the game's going to basically come down to is if the Eagles can they capitalize on 1 or 2, 3 of those 40-yard, 30-yard deep shots down the sidelines, because they're going to be there. The opportunities are going to be there, and they're going to have to get them, because I think the Chiefs have spent all the last 2 weeks studying that run game and doing everything they can to take it away. So the Eagles are going to have to connect on some shots, and A.J. Brown's the top guy to go to for those. So I think he's going to have a good game. I don't know how big, but I think 1 touchdown, 85 yards. I think that gets it done, and I think that's all he probably needs to do. Yeah,
because as great as he is at high point in the football and just being physical, he's built like T.O., which is funny now that he's an Eagle and the parallels there. But on the other side of him, Devonta Smith for a smaller, slender guy, can high point a football about as well as you could ever ask anyone to do. So, both guys going against rookie corners. The big question being, what what Jalen Hurts has in that shoulder at the moment. I think he's a great deep ball thrower. I think we saw it during the year. He's very accurate. The Giants game and the Niners game, he was a little bit inaccurate deep down the field, which I'm sure has something to do with the discomfort in his shoulder. But if he's able to connect on those, I think you're right. If we can stretch the field, this game's over. If we have to just beat them over the middle and running the ball, it's going to be a slog. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. I thought Hurts did look off in the 49ers game more than the Giants game. He sailed a couple throws. He threw the ball in the dirt a couple times. He didn't look as comfortable. Like I thought that was probably Hurts' worst game as a passer all season against the 49ers. But if you do kind of zoom out a little bit and take a look at some of the plays in that game, I don't know if you remember Devonta Smith. There was a deep shot down the sidelines that hit him right in the chest. Devonta Smith catches those 8 times, 9 times out of 10. If he catches that ball, the story looks a little different. And on top of that, there was a deep shot to A.J. Brown that he sailed, that he overthrew him on. But A.J. Brown was grabbed. There was an illegal contact penalty about 10 yards while he was running that route, and it was a timing route. So it kind of stopped A.J. Brown's rhythm. And if, let's say, he was a free release and he wasn't touched there, that ball's catchable for A.J. Brown. That's hit. That's a touchdown. We're looking at Jalen Hurts' passing performance completely different if one of those two plays does connect, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about here is if you can connect on 1 or 2 or 3 of those shots, it just opens up the offense more for the run game. So when I 100% agree with you, something has looked off a little bit from Jalen Hurts, and that is somewhat of a worry of mine is how he's going to throw the ball in this game. But I think it's been 2 weeks since that game. The shoulder, it's now 6 weeks ago he hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
So it's
he hasn't taken too many shots really in the meantime.
Yeah, something's got to give here. He's got to step it up, and I think he will. I'm confident that he can throw the ball around this defense.
Yeah, I think he's the kind of guy too where he's in pain, no doubt. I think much like Lane Johnson, when you're in the Super Bowl, the pain just you find a way to deal with it. I think he's going to play wide open, balls to the wall. That's just kind of the guy he is. So that's all I expect out of him. I know you got another podcast to do. You're a busy guy. I want to get one last question in before we split. If you just something for fun, Doug Peterson took this team to the Super Bowl. I love Doug Peterson, the football coach. I was sad when he left. I didn't think he deserved to go out the way that he did. I'm stoked that we have Nick Sirianni now. Do you think if you put Doug Peterson back at the helm of this particular team with this roster, this personalities, all that, do you think we're still where we're at?
It's a very good question. I don't know. It's tough to say. I want to say yes. Like I think Doug Peterson's a really good head coach. I do think Nick Sirianni does get a ton. He's very underrated at the moment, especially kind of with the national media. What Sirianni has done, being able to kind of transition this offense from a pass-first offense to a run-first offense midway through the year last year, kind of completely transition game plans, which is very important and I think very cool in this day and age because that's what you need to be a good coach. And a lot of coaches are kind of stuck to what they do and they're stubborn and they don't adjust. Yep. And adjusting midway through the season, being able to kind of completely transform an offense, I think is really cool and really important in this day and age of football. So I thought that was really cool of him. And as well, just the way he's playing to his players' strengths this year. Nick Sirianni deserves so much credit. So it's tough to say because both are really good head coaches. Probably go yes, because I think Doug Peterson would get the most. Doug Pearson's so good at dialing up free releases for players, getting guys open. Like that's what he did in Philly. So I think they're similar coaches, and I think he would. And players love Doug Peterson. He's just such a nice guy, and players love Sirianni. So I think they're very similar, to be honest. Like I think they almost hired a carbon copy of him. Doug had a little bit more. He was a little funnier, and he was a little kind of better with the media. Nick Sirianni is kind of pretty blank with the media, and he's not the greatest speaker. Let's be real here, but that's not part of the job to be good, right? You don't have to be.
No,
a lot of coaches that are bad at it. So probably go yes. But
yeah,
I think Sirianni's awesome. I think he's severely underrated.
Me too, and I'm glad you put it the way you did because that question wasn't ever phrased to take anything away from Nick Sirianni because I think he's done a spectacular job. Like you said, pivoting, having the humility to admit he was wrong, and it's time to do something different, which I think Doug could have done too.
He did, and so Jalen Hurts' first start against the Saints, the offense looked so different in that game. That was in 2020, like it was when Wentz got benched. The Eagles ran all over the Saints. That was the best run defense. in the league at that point. The Eagles just ran all over them. And the offense didn't look anything like the Carson Wentz offense. So they're both good at kind of changing up the playbook and getting people open, playing to players' strengths.
Yeah, both guys can turn on a dime. That's why we've been in the Super Bowl with both of them. That's why we have Brenden Deeg back on the podcast to cover the Super Bowl. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Everybody, make sure to check him out on Twitter at Brenden Deeg _. Check out The Score for that matter, where my man here is the NFL news editor. Thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully next time I see you, we are celebrating a Super Bowl championship, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate you.
All right, catch you later, Brenden. Everybody else, see you next week.